Hello, I'm Danny Louise Smith, the Queen of Business Organisation, and you're joining me on the Business Growth podcast. And today we've got guest Stef, who is an amazing business owner, and we are going to talk about having brain breaks to help you stay in your best energy. So you're about to discover what that's all about. But before we get into that topic, Stef, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Danny. So I'm Steph. I am the founder of Calm Creations Club, which is a business that helps people relax, de-stress, unwind through relaxing art activities. So it's all about helping you kind of find your inner calm. And the strapline is relax, connect, and create. So that's all what the business is about.
That's amazing. I'd love to actually share with our audience as well what actually brought you into, because I love this story. What brought you to be doing this for people?
So I was a teacher for 4 years and I absolutely loved teaching and sharing my knowledge with other people and seeing their journey, seeing their development. It's really magical. But I had massive people pleasing tendencies. I was a perfectionist and I probably still am to a certain extent. And through that process, I ended up getting extremely burnt out and had to take a break from teaching. So I left in February of this year. And then through the time that I was off, I started just really connecting with who I was. So I'm a really creative person. I've been like creative since I was little. I did a fashion degree. I was that kid who was in the art room every single lunchtime. So when I had time away from work, I started painting, I started drawing, I started making clothes again. And lo and behold, the creativity, the mindful connection, my well-being improved, which I was just like, okay, I need to share this with other people. Because it was really ironic. I was teaching art and I was still doing art and I was doing it for more so like the students and doing examples and things like that. So I wasn't really doing anything that kind of expressed myself, that kind of went through my own emotions. Um, and when I started doing it, it felt so good. It felt like I was back to, I refer to it as like back to myself. And we all have this like version of ourself that sometimes we get a little bit disconnected from. So doing that helps me get back to myself. And I think there's so many people that could benefit from that massively.
Yeah, there definitely is. And we've just been talking about before the podcast recording, weren't we, that because Steph's actually sponsored my book pre-launch party, which is exciting. So she's going to be there when I launch my book. But as I've been doing this, it's like there's been a lot on my to-do list. And I'm now finally at a point where most of it's done. It's just little bits now. And we were talking about like me being creative and what I've been doing recently. Because I joined one of your Mandela sessions online, which was amazing, and it's got me back to that, and I needed that push, I think, to get back to that. And it's been creative, and it's good to do that and just sit and create for me, because I'm creative in my business. But we were saying, weren't we, how sometimes we get into work and it's all doing, doing, doing and being productive, which is great, but then we want more flow. And I always talk about balance, but for me it's about that flow of being able to do fun, exciting, or calming, in your world, stuff outside of business as well.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, oh, go on, you can say something.
I was going to say, just on the back of that, if that flow is the bit where actually we will see our business like succeed, because when you are in flow, you're more open to receiving, you have
Yes.
better creative ideas. And sometimes if you are in the productivity mode like too much, then you get a little bit of like stuck in the weeds and can't really see what's actually going on. And when you kind of step yourself away from it a little bit, that's when you actually have brain energy and availability to think about what you're doing more, what without having to actually do it at the same time.
Yeah, it benefits your mental health and your business, doesn't it? You're so right about that, because I'm an example of it this week, and this is something I massively struggle with, and I want to lead myself through and work on it. But at the time of recording this, I've been poorly this week, and this is why we were talking about it, weren't it? And I struggle with not doing anything at all. So I went to creativity, because at least I don't have to do it. I don't, there's no pressures around it. I can just create. But what's interesting is that I've had quite a quiet week, and I stepped back. I had, I say, 2 full days off, but I didn't really work on Monday either. So nearly 3 full days off. And then yesterday I finished bang on 3, which I rarely do. And then I just enjoyed watching some TV, talking to the kids, reading with my daughter and stuff. And then what's happened today is I've gone to a networking event, sold 2 tickets for my pre-launch, and then I've had another sale come through that I don't even know where this person's bought something that I'm not even selling right now, but she's found it, which is amazing. And it just shows that the money side that happens when I've just stepped back a little bit and been in flow, because I literally went to that event, introduced myself, and just sat and had conversations, and I've sold stuff. But then also what's happened is last night my mind was buzzing with creativity, with content to create. So that helps my business in itself, because I can then produce at my best because I've had days off and not done anything. And I love moments like that when it all comes bursting out. And I guess it is because I've had this week. And so it's allowed that to happen. Which actually brings me to a question that I did want to ask you is, with the clients that you work with, what do you think are like the common challenges that they face as busy business owners?
So a lot of what you just said, I think there's a lot of pressure in society and in business society. I think it's a world that you don't really see into until you start your own business. Um,
Mm,
there's pressure to be, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not pushing hard enough, I'm not um successful enough. There's a lot of shame and um guilt, and unfortunately a lot of it is internalized, and when you speak to
yeah.
other people they feel the same. So I often find that there's two camps in people's mind. There's people that are really really entrenched in the wellness and the flow, which is amazing.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
And then there's people who are really, really hard into the productivity camp of, I'm going to be using my Eisenhower matrix and I've got my Gantt charts and I've got all of these things. But I don't find many people where they're utilizing both of them. And I think there's positives and negatives on both
Yeah,
sides. So I think when you become a new business owner, especially, there is a lot to do. And especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, there's a lot to do and you might not know where to start. So you might feel like, well, I know that I need rest because everybody needs rest. We can't work all the time, but I know that I need to make progress on my business. And I think a lot of the people that I speak to are those people who are trying to juggle both of them. And it is the juggle and it is the balance. It's that work-life balance that everyone talks about. And the thing is, there's no right or wrong. It's about going on a bit of a journey and finding out what works best for you. And I I do that through looking at my values, looking at what I want my life to
mm,
look like. Um, like I mentioned before, have been a massive people pleaser, have been a massive perfectionist, and really looking at why I was doing those things, what were the beliefs behind them, looking at what what I want to achieve, who I wanted to help, and then looking at, well, I can only do that if I can sustainably support my business. And I can't do that by working however many hours a day all the time without taking a break, because all that's going to lead to is burnout. And when
yeah.
you burn out, you stop big time. Like everything.
You're forced to, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
Definitely.
And your body will tell you in ways before you get to that point. It's if you've ever been through it, you'll understand the feelings, and after you've come out the other side, you'll notice them more. But when you're in that moment, you'll feel, well, no, I'm so stressed, I need to do more. Well, actually, you could do more if you took a break,
Yeah.
but that's really, really hard for some people to do.
It's like
Really.
with me getting poorly this week. I hear a lot of times people go, I don't have time to be poorly right now. And I always answer that with, then you need to take a break. Because if you don't have time for it, your body's forcing that upon you. So I used to be that person that said, don't have time to be poorly right now. But now I'm like, okay. Literally, I never throw up. So Tuesday night when I was poorly, I was like, okay, I need to take a step back. Even my husband is so used to like hearing me coach others on this that he's like, you need to like have the day off now, don't you? Yeah, I've already cancelled everything today, or moved it, should I say, and rearranged it. And actually, there weren't a lot in, so it was nice and easy to be flexible with it. And being flexible with yourself and in your commitments is so important, as much as you can be.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I definitely think brain breaks help. So I'd love to chat about, for anyone that doesn't know, I only know because I met you. But I knew and I had an idea of like how this works because it is in terms of bit creating balance. I've always said the phrase take a step back to step forward. And that was my version of that, like having some days off this week. But in terms of like you call it brain breaks, it's a very similar thing. What does that look like for you? And yeah, to explain to people listening.
So brain breaks are the clues in the name. It's time that you are taken away from using your brain for your business or for your job, or in a way that you are having to use a lot of cognitive power. So that can look like many, many different things, and it depends on what you are interested in. Another way of thinking about this is something called a dopamine menu. So you're
Ah,
about what is it that I can do with different amounts of time. So a brain break, you can use them for literally 5 minutes if it's in between meetings, in between work blocks. You've just dropped the kids off at school and you're just having 5 minutes of chill before you go out and do whatever it is that you're going to do that day. It could be a longer amount of time that you're going to go to a workshop, or you're going to go do a dance class. I know you do dance, Danny, don't you?
yeah.
Or it could be a full day out, but it's basically not using your brain for that real high cognitive load. And the idea of it is that it lets you have more processing time, because what we are guilty of as a society is expecting our processing time to be this quick. We get so much information given to us through social media, through the news, just through everything that we see in day-to-day life. And we are expected to process it and react to it really quickly. But actually, we're not wired to do it like that. We need time to think about things. We need time to rationalize things. Sometimes the first answer that comes to our head isn't always the best one. So the idea of the brain break is taking that time away, like you said, step back to step forward, because it reduces the cognitive overload and the overwhelm, and it helps you just kind of have some space. I like to think of it as the idea of space. So for me, I have different amounts of time that I'll use. So I might have ones that are 5 minute creative doodling. Danny mentioned about my mindful mandalas workshop. So that's just a form of mark making that it really switches your brain off, because
Yeah.
it's so it's so easy to do. And that's kind of the key with these things. They need to be things that are easy and don't take much processing power. So I'll do that if I've got 5 minutes. A really good one is to get up and move, because we can easily get sat down for a lot, be really stationary, and getting outside, getting into nature. It depends on how much time you have. If you've got a longer amount of time, you might want to do some, like for me, one of my go-tos is painting. I love doing painting, which is why I set up my business. And if I've got a full day, then I might go and do something like cold water swimming, a gong bath. I went to one last weekend, which was amazing. Or even things like yoga nidra. Like that's something that I've
Yeah.
been recently, but my God, I love it. It's absolutely amazing. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. And the idea of it is using it to stay in your best energy. So having that
Yeah.
process power so that you can go for it with your productive side, and making sure that you can be as successful and do all the things that you want to do, achieve the big goals, but also stay well in yourself.
I was going to ask for some examples, but you've actually shared some examples what we can do. For me, like it takes me away when I've got my head in a book, especially something that's not business related, or because I love personal development, but I love to read. I always get confused between fiction and non-fiction, the ones that are not true.
Yeah,
Um,
non-fiction. I'm the same.
yeah,
So I used to get a relaxing bubble bath, and I
yeah,
would then open my Stephen Bartlett book, and then I'm like, this is a bit contrasting. You're trying to relax, but you're still
yeah,
got the brain on. So I kind of have a rule if I'm reading that I will only read non-fiction, business, self-development, all that kind of stuff in the morning. Now
yeah.
I've just gone back to doing supply work in teaching, and I apply the same to my commute. So I will have business podcasts in the morning, self-development, mindset, all that sort of stuff, because it makes me feel really motivated. But after a day of teaching, I need to chill out. So I am
Yeah.
a huge Swiftie. I will put the Taylor Swift albums on the way home, sing to my heart's content, and just kind of get rid of the day. Um, but it's working out what works for you. Some people are total opposites, but my having information into my head before bed does not work.
No, it doesn't me either.
I'll ruminate and just keep going over it. I need that break.
Because I'm sort of like with it, I'm so creative. I don't know if you're the same, that if I do something like that when I'm trying to go to sleep, although I'm be really tired, my brain's switched on and I'll get ideas. And I struggled with insomnia for quite a while. And I think it was because of not having that wind down time. Because about a year ago, I was still doing evening sessions with clients. And so my light bulbs were firing off in my head, and I was like, oh, I could do this, could do that, I should say this and do this. And I was getting like content ideas, new business ideas, which is amazing to feel that, but
Yeah.
not at like 3 in the morning. And then it was affecting my energy through the day. So by 2 o'clock, I used to be like buggered. I could not do anything. And so I agree with that. And I'm reading a book at the minute that's it's a mix of fiction and non-fiction because it's actually like a personal development book, but then there's people's stories in between each chapter. And so they're all true stories, but it's like when you read a novel and it's just a story, it's like reading a story, but it links to the actual development side of it. So there's a bit of both going on in there. But I read the bulk of the book because of the way it's formatted. I read all these like development and understanding kind of educational part as one, and now I'm reading the stories. Sounds a bit daft. It's just because I'm contributing to the book myself, and we've got the chapters at different points, so I can kind of split it and read it. And it's been quite interesting how I can just switch off reading those stories because they're just stories and it's not going and firing that creative brain. It does make a massive difference. So in
Yeah,
terms of the clients you work with, what kind of sessions do you do and offer to people to come and have their own brain breaks with you?
yeah, so there's kind of two arms to this. So I run public workshops, which are in a variety of local spaces across Leeds and West Yorkshire. So they are open to anyone who needs to relax, connect, create. They are generally, I find I get a lot of teachers in those, or people in the typically busy professions that
Yeah.
generally have high workloads, high associated stress, so teachers, nurses, doctors, that kind of thing. Um, and they're really, really lovely. I I had one at Grays in Rothwell last Friday, which was absolutely
Love
amazing.
it there.
It's great, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. Um, yeah, so do those. We've got ones coming up which are pumpkin painting, we've got baubles. So we do a real range of activities that suit different people. Um, but what I do say about all of them, they are perfect for beginners. So what I realized really quickly in my business is when people want to relax, they don't want to make decisions.
Mm.
Um, they want it to be really guided, almost in a childlike way of tell me where to put this paint on this canvas and make it really, really clear. So you can come not having done any arts in school, or even before that, if you never did it at school either. And you can leave with something you're really proud of, because that sense of achievement is so key to our well-being as well. So they're all guided. You can go off piste if you want and do something totally creative, but generally what I found is those people who are struggling with their well-being and want that break really just want to be led. So those are one aspect of the workshop. And then I also do ones which are networking versions. So therefore business owners who actually are experiencing very similar issues. But we know as business owners that when you connect with other business owners, that is really powerful in and of itself for your well-being. But I remember when I first started going to networking, I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know who to talk to. You know, when you get into like a little group of people,
Yeah.
like, I want to move on, but I feel really rude leaving and going. And the reality is, it's not, and everyone understands it. But one of the really beautiful things about my version of networking is your side on. So your mind and your hands are distracted. So you actually open up more authentically. We do those at Santander once a month in Leeds City Centre, and yeah, they're really, really lovely. The next one is on Monday, the 2nd of October. Try to think what month we were in then.
Oh, that all sounds amazing. I do need to come to one of those. And I
Yeah.
am going to come to your pumpkin painting. So there's a few seasonal ones there, isn't there, with the pumpkin painting for Halloween and then the baubles for Christmas. And I'm assuming you'll probably have some later on in 2025, some other themed ones around the seasons. And because you've done the Halloween one, the pumpkin one over the Halloween break as well. When I saw that, I thought, oh, perfect, like half-term activity to get the kids involved and stuff. So it becomes a family thing for us, rather than just a brain break for me. And I think it's not, it obviously your ideal clients are people like me, a busy business owner. But I think for sometimes those parents like my husband who are at home and look at the same four walls every day, he says, and it's always doing the stuff as a dad or I guess for many women, it's like the housewife stuff and the mum stuff, and they get stuck in that cycle. So to break that a little bit and go and do something different. And then for the kids, is to cut like to not be in school and to do something again different. And it is different, which is why I liked it. We on holiday we look and book activities like this. So our last holiday we had well, we did same place twice this year, and the first time we did pottery painting, and I booked myself and did one, and my husband's like, "Oh, you're doing one." I'm like, "Bloody hell, yeah, of course I am," which I loved. And then the kids did bears. The last time we went, and they made their own bears, and then we did like a dragon one as well, where it was kind of step by step stuff and guided, like you say, like you colour it in and then you may blow it up and it was like a 3D dinosaur, or you build up you had to smash a thing and then it would all the bones would come out and you build the skeleton, and they really loved that. I loved it, to be fair. I should have booked myself on that one. But I go somewhere else. I went to a retreat recently and there was a creative, like an art workshop, and I was so excited. So I attended it, and she kind of introduced us to the idea behind the canvas. So she gave us a guide of what we were creating, told us about all the materials that we had, and then kind of left us to it, but checked in on us. And I was so quiet, and everyone's like, because they're not used, because I'm such a talker, especially in a social environment, and they're like, "You're right," and I'm like, yeah, I'm just doing what I love, and I'm just so quiet, like colouring in and sticking stuff down. I just go into like a whole other world, and I love that because I get so engrossed what I'm doing that then it was nearly over, and I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't ready for it to be over.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I did a post about that this week. So when I first started doing the workshops, there's always this moment in the workshop where everyone gets like that and they get into creative flow and they all go silent. And at
Yeah,
first I found it really awkward. And I was like, I was trying to like fill it and I was just saying like really silly things. And then I've learned to just let it
let
lie.
it be. Yeah,
That's when actually people are co-regulating, they're really in flow, and it's the bit that it's having the best impact on your nervous system because
yeah,
you, sometimes I describe it like, you know, if you're with a best friend and you can just sit there and you can both not talk to each other, but you leave feeling more refreshed than you have done in such a long time. Like sometimes people need that silence in a room that they know the people around them are supportive and are going to make them feel safe to actually that's really valuable as well. So, but it is so funny that you say that you go silent because a lot of people do that when they're being creative. They
yeah.
start off going like talking and then it just goes into like calm bliss. And I think people really value that because sometimes there's a real pressure to talk, 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 talk and fill the void. And we don't need to. We just don't
No,
need.
no. I think my family definitely think it's strange when it happens because I honestly, I don't shut up. And then they'll walk into the room and I'm so quiet and I'm doing my thing. My husband asked me like, "Are you all right? Are you sure you're all right? Do you need me doing it?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just okay. I'm just like, I'm just drawing. I'm just doodling. I'm just happy. I'm just in flow." Um, So like I'll answer them and respond, but then I'm straight back into it and stuff. And I think they find it so alien because they're not used to it. The more I do it, I guess, the more they will become used to it and just think, oh, she's doing a thing. Because the kids do it, don't they? When they're colouring, my son makes little clay models and he's amazing at it, the skill he just naturally has, but he sits there quiet in his room and makes them, and then he'll come and show it off, and then he'll go back and he'll be quiet again and he'll make another one. And it's so nice to see. And it's obviously something he enjoys and he loves showing off, and that's great. And that helps him to just, I guess, regulate a little bit as well at the end of a day after school. So it's nice to see. If
Yeah,
we want to go on.
the kids need that so much because at school there's a lot of expectations on them of
Yeah,
how to behave and how to interact with other people, and sometimes they need to come home and have that decompression time, especially with neurodiverse children. And I do find that actually a lot of my workshop attendees are neurodiverse as well,
yeah.
because we are connection seekers. Generally we are connection seekers.
I was going to mention that just then, actually, when you were speaking, there's a connection with creativity and neurodiversity. I'm at the book that I was talking about is called Beyond the Ordinary, and it's specifically about that, the connection between creativity and neurodiversity. And my middle child is probably the most creative out of my three, and he's neurodiverse, so it's quite interesting to see how it helps him. Like one of the ways they calmed him down when he struggled to go into school was they took him off to what they called the rainbow room. I don't think they have it anymore, but in there he literally would sit and paint or sit and colour, or the amount of times we'd come home with little Play-Doh things that he'd made that he wanted to keep that I could barely touch because I don't want to misshape it because these things never set either. But he'd come out with different shapes and different colours and different designs every day that he'd made. And he loved it. It was how they regulated him. And then he went perfectly fine and started his day in the classroom with everybody else. But it really helped. And there is a massive link between it. So I know that I got a lot of people listening who do have challenges with neurodiversity, and myself and my family included, and creativity massively plays a part for us, and I'm sure it does many others as well. If someone wants to come and check out the sessions that you have available and get booked on, whether it's just for themselves and for a bit of that brain break, or if it is for the networking as business owners as well, where can they come and find you?
So the best bet is to go to my Instagram, which is cam_creations_club. I think it'll be referenced in the show notes.
It will.
Um, and the booking system is bookwen/cam creations club. We've got quite a few exciting events coming up. The seasonal ones we mentioned. We've also got a Mamma Mia night, which I'm really, really excited.
Ah,
And then lots of exciting plans going forward into the new year. New venues, new workshops, all sorts of stuff going on. So
amazing.
it sounds like you are in need of a creative brain break, then we might just have the event for you.
Oh, definitely go. Whoever's listening, like, go and check it out because there's so many amazing things on. I love it. And my question that I ask all my guests, just to round up with, what is your biggest tip for being organized within your business?
I think referring back to your values, because you can try and pick up someone else's method of being organized, but if it doesn't align with your values and how you want to live your life, it's not going to work for you. So whenever you're trying to stay organized, going back to what it is that you value, because that'll help you decide what's important for you. And what's important for you isn't always the same as someone else. So living life on your path and being authentically true to yourself rather than comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy after all. So yeah, that's what I would
That's
say.
so true. And I love that because it's so different to anybody else's answer. And I teach people how to be more organized in the business, but I do always say, this is how I do it, but you've got to do it the way that works for you. And the main reason I say that is because when I struggled with time management, I was advised to time block. Time
Mm.
block worked for me for so long. Being creative, I get bored, and then it no longer worked. So I had to figure out what the hell I needed to do to make my time management work. And I've got that now. And so I started with teaching people that, and it doesn't have to be time blocked, like per hour or whatever, and finding a way to do it right for you. And it comes across with everything you do in your business, whether it's your social media, whether it's how many days you have off, or whatever that looks like. It's definitely got to be with your values and be right for you, hasn't it? So I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a great one. And I know people are going to I think they're going to get a lot of reminders during this actually, that they have to step back sometimes and take those brain breaks. And those that are in West Yorkshire can come and check out your amazing events,
Well,
because they are so fun. You're welcome. Thanks for joining me. And I'm so excited to see you at the pre-launch party for the book as well. So thank you.
thank you so much. I'll see you later.